When you think of businesses that make a profit, airports probably aren't the first thing that pop into your mind. Most airports are owned by governments to fulfill basic transportation needs, but some of the biggest airports in the world are practically their own little corporations. In this video, we'll be taking a look at how some of these big airports handle the difficult task of moving tens of millions of passengers every year while also turning a profit. So let's begin. So, airports don't really charge you to enter them. All you really need is a ticket to a flight, if even that. And you can basically enter any airport that you want. Airports don't even technically have customers. You're not going to an airport to use their services, you're going there to catch a flight that you paid another company for. Hypothetically, any person using an airport can catch any flight without spending even a penny on the airport itself. That's why, at its core, it's pretty difficult to actually earn money. In the vast majority of cases, it's a free service, and people are used to it being free. But, just like any service, airports need money. They need to pay for their employees, for maintenance, and for any additional service that they might need to provide. But how do they actually earn that money? You might be wondering. The most basic way they do so is aeronautical revenue. It's basically the money that airlines pay to an airport in order to use it for their planes. Airlines pay airports a lot of money for a lot of different things. They need a place to park their planes, first and foremost. To do so, they need to rent out a garage at the airport. Additionally, they need to pay the airport for actual flights as well. Say if an airline wants to fly to London Heathrow Airport, one of the most popular airports in the world, they'd have to actually pay LHR for the scheduled departure and arrival times that would be allotted to them. But how do airlines pay for all of this? Well, they basically just divide the cost among all of their own customers by adding it to their ticket prices. That's why when you do use an airport to catch a flight, you're technically paying the airport as well as the airline. But aeronautical revenue refers to only the money airports make directly from charging passengers and airlines for flying purposes. According to the Federal Aviation Administration, aeronautical revenue accounts for around 55% of the total airport revenue in the United States. But what about the rest of the revenue? That's the non-aeronautical revenue of airports. The single largest source of non-aeronautical revenue, at least in the United States, comes from parking. No, we're not talking about planes being parked, we're talking about cars being parked. A car park gives airports the ability to actually charge people to get in. Of course, you can just, not park your car in the airport and get in for free, but most people tend to not even care about the small parking fee that's associated with it. The parking fees include things like taxis, limousines, buses, and many other vehicles that are usually present in airports. This segment accounted for around 41% of the total non-aeronautical revenue in the United States for 2013. But there's another major source of revenue for airports that don't charge passengers from just entering an airport, but aims to charge passengers while they're in the airport. Retail. Retail stores were a novel concept in airports around 50 years ago, but in the past 2 decades specifically, they've skyrocketed in popularity. Almost every major international airport you see today will have a ton of retail stores inside of them. Some of them could even be categorized as shopping malls on their own. Airports have a major advantage when it comes to this, since most passengers are asked to arrive at an airport 2 hours before a flight, and 3 hours before if it's an international flight. In those 2 to 3 hours, passengers walk by a bunch of attractive-looking stores with lots of discounts and duty-free options. Since they don't have a lot to do, many people just opt to shop to their heart's content. Aside from that, it's also very likely that passengers are going to get hungry in the time they spend in the airport. That's why airports are filled with all kinds of restaurants, including fast food like McDonald's, Burger King, and KFC. In fact, the largest McDonald's in the entire world is located at the Frankfurt International Airport. Alcohol and tobacco are pretty popular things to buy at these airports since the tax on these products is extremely high in most cases, and being able to purchase them tax-free is a hell of a deal. Aside from that, people also want to buy souvenirs when they fly back home from a vacation. which is why airports and popular tourist destinations are almost always filled with cute little souvenir shops selling overpriced plastic junk. Now, an airport may lease these stores to potential tenants, or they might own these stores themselves. In either case, it's very profitable for the airport. But the thing is, all of this, as we've mentioned, was not that common before the past 2 decades. Airports are now only catching on to how much profit they can make from retail, and it's a fast-growing industry. Some airports are getting a bit creative. Singapore's Changi Airport, which is often considered the best airport in the world, has massage parlors, massage chairs, movie theaters, and even spas within their airport. They've basically turned their airport into an optional luxury experience that passengers can have at a premium, and it worked. The Changi Airport has an annual revenue of over $500 million, with its non-aeronautical revenue growing by over 10% each year. People tend to spend more money in airports than they do in shopping malls. Maybe it's because they're already planning on spending a lot of money. No one really knows. But something about airports makes people just want to spend money. The total airport revenue in the world for the past year was a staggering $172 billion. Dubai, the busiest airport in the world by international traffic, saw almost $1 billion in revenue last year. The airport with the highest revenue would have to be London Heathrow Airport, which saw $1.6 billion pouring in the past year. Keep in mind, these numbers are during the COVID-19 pandemic, when international flights were severely restricted, and many airports are operating at a fraction of their previous capacities. London Heathrow Airport is actually quite a unique airport. Instead of being owned by a government, LHR is a completely private company, which means its main purpose is to not just facilitate passengers, but to turn a profit. That's why, despite having fewer passengers than Dubai International, it earns more revenue and profit in general. There's an important question to be asked here. Do airports even want to earn revenue? And the short answer to that is, it depends on the airport. As a private company, LHR is focused more on revenue and profit. Dubai International, on the other hand, is completely owned by the government of Dubai. The purpose of this airport is not to earn revenue within it, but it's to make Dubai a city of global importance. The government wants Dubai to not just be a transport hub, but the transport hub. In turn, Dubai gets more powerful as a city. It gets more tourism, more investments, more businesses, and it pretty much just becomes the global center of air traffic. That brings us to a third kind of revenue that is generated through airports that no one seems to talk about: the economic revenue. Now, this revenue isn't directly earned by the airports, but it does earn them a lot of money. An airport has the power to turn a city into a regional or an international hub, bringing with it a lot of trade, commerce, tourism, and investment. All of these can bring a lot of prosperity to a region, and we're seeing it happen today with Dubai International, Doha International, and Istanbul International airports. Private companies have very little incentive towards achieving such goals, which is why these mega airport projects are usually pursued by governments. Additionally, the governments that own all 3 of the airports I just mentioned also own major airlines, such as Emirates, Qatar Airways, and Turkish Airlines. These airlines absolutely dominate the world of international flights, and not only do they generate a lot of revenue for their countries and cities, but they also work pretty much in tandem with the airports they serve as the hubs of. Now, you're probably wondering, how does this help the airports earn money? Well, since it's usually the government that pursues economic projects like these, the government is usually the one that's paying for the upkeep of these airports as well. This means that it doesn't even matter if these airports turn a profit. All that matters is that they have the economic impact that they're supposed to. Additionally, they would also be earning revenue from the traditional aeronautical and non-aeronautical sources. But they have the ability to cut corners, making them far more competitive as airports. That's a wrap for how airports make money. What's your favorite airport to visit? Let us know in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. I'll see you in the next one.